Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lindsay Paulo, coming to you live from PG&E's Emergency Operations Center in Vacaville. I'm with the Marketing and Communications Department. Thanks for joining us. At PG&E, we start every meeting with a safety message, and I'd like to take a moment to remind everybody to stay safe during this extreme heat event, stay hydrated during the heat wave. We are here to provide an update on how we are responding to this heat wave, and we appreciate you joining us. Also want to recommend that our customers have a plan for any possible power outages associated with the heat wave. We have more tips available on our website. It's www.pge.com/safety. Today, you're going to hear from our Incident Commander, Mark Quinlan. He is the Senior Vice President of Wildfire, Emergency, and Operations. He is the EOC Commander for this heat event. You'll also hear from Scott Strenfel. He is our meteorologist in charge and also our Chief Customer Strategy Officer for this event, Tom Smith. In addition, we'll be continuing to provide updates on pge.com and on all of our social media channels. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mark.
Okay, thank you, Lindsay. Hello, everyone. Mark Quinlan, Incident Commander for our event here. First thing I want to do is just say thank you for joining us to hear a situational update report on how the PG&E system is performing. I want to start off with safety. The top priority for us at PG&E is the safety of our customers and our coworkers, and we work tirelessly to ensure that we provide safety for all of you. This is a long duration heat event, triple digit temperatures in the coastal valleys in the Bay Area, and over 110 degrees in the Central Valley. Long duration heat event, very, very dangerous. So it's imperative to Lindsay's point that you have a plan for emergencies. We've been closely monitoring and actively preparing for this event, dating back to the weekend when we activated our Emergency Operations Center. We're making every effort to prevent power outages and restore them if they happen as safely and as quickly as possible. A lot of proactive actions being taken by PG&E. We've inspected all of our critical substations to ensure all equipment is operating properly and no apparent issues. We have flown helicopters on 50 transmission lines just to proactively patrol to make sure that we don't see any evidence of any type of a tree or anything that could come in contact with our lines and disrupt service. As mentioned, we've activated the Emergency Operations Center here in Vacaville. We've also opened our 5 regional emergency centers and 19 division operations centers. So it's really an all hands event for us. In addition to that, we have our Hazard Awareness and Warning Center, the HAWK as we refer to it. That's staffed 24/7, as are our electric transmission and distribution control centers and our electric dispatch center, all hands on deck in a readiness posture to respond to any trouble that comes our way. From a field perspective, we have done a lot of work to forecast where we anticipate the largest areas of outage to be, and we've pre-positioned resources to be and equipment to be in those areas should there be a power outage. In total, we have over 3,300 PG&E coworkers and contractors on the system right now, taking proactive action and responding to outages. And so as I transition into current conditions, the system has well all week. Right now, as of 1:30 this briefing on the whole PG&E system, we have 6,800 customers out of service. And the most impacted area on the system right now is up in Butte County in the Oroville area due to the Thompson fire. Those were a combination of outages that occurred due to fire activity as well as proactive outages to turn the power off for firefighter safety at the request of the agency who has jurisdiction. The grid remains stable through the first 3 days of this extended heat. If I look at the load forecast, the system load forecast on the PG&E grid is 22,106 megawatts, which is a big number. To put things in context, our all-time system peak number was 22,684 megawatts, and that took place on September 6th of 2022. So we're bouncing right up against the all-time system peak of PG&E. In terms of moving forward action, we're continuing to monitor the high temperatures. We're continuing to have a laser focus on wildfire activity and wildfire safety. And we're in close coordination with the agencies both at the state and local level. I want to urge customers to be prepared, as Lindsay mentioned, for potential heat-related outages this the afternoon and evening. That's when the grid's under most stress, is from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. So please do what you can to be aware and to be ready. I did want to provide a quick update on our Public Safety Power Shutoff event that we executed earlier this week. We were forecasting some unsafe wind and wildfire fuel activities, so made the decision to execute a Public Safety Power Shutoff, primarily on the west side of the northern Sacramento Valley. There were originally 12,000 customers in scope. Weather conditions improved in some of these areas of scope, so we were only needed to de-energize 2,000 customers. We did that on July 2nd and restored the majority of them yesterday. There was a second period of risk that happened early this morning, and we shut those same customers off again, and we're in the process of patrolling and restoring our infrastructure. All clear conditions at this point moving forward for the north. We are monitoring some developing weather activity, fire weather activity in the southern central coast. I'll call it from like a Monterey to King City line north to south. There's been a fire weather watch that's been issued by the National Weather Service. Scott will get into the details, but our team here in the Emergency Operations Center is currently looking at that event very closely, and we're scoping to understand how many counties are involved, how many customers are involved, and we'll begin our communication sequence from that point. So before I turn it over to Scott, I just do want to thank everyone. I want to thank all the PG&E coworkers out there that are working hard to keep the lights on and put them back on safely as possible. And thank all the public agency partners out there that are doing such a great job attacking these fires. So with that, I'll turn it over to Scott.
Great. Thanks, Mark. I'm Scott Strenfel here. I'm one of the meteorologists that are covering this event 24/7. And so essentially we have a very strong ridge of high pressure that's going to move over California over the next week and park over California. And that's really the kind of temperature and weather phenomena that's going on that's going to cause temperatures to significantly increase here over the next week. When we look at our temperature records across the PG&E service territory and we, backcast and look across that history, what we're going to see over the next 7 days rivals some of our biggest heat waves that we've ever experienced in the PG&E service territory. And so we're going back to and looking at July 2006 and September of 2022 to get some comparisons with what we're going to see. There's not only going to be daily temperature records being broken and potentially some all-time temperature records potentially being broken, like Reading at 118 might be met or might be exceeded. But one of the things that we're very concerned about with this heat wave is just the prolonged nature of the heat wave. And to give you some numbers to back this up, locations like Reading, Red Bluff, Fresno, Bakersfield are forecast not only by us, but also by the National Weather Service to exceed on their maximum temperatures 110 for 8 days in a row. And that has never happened before. The longest stretch of 110 plus temperatures in Reading, for example, has happened 6 times in history. And Fresno, Bakersfield, something like 5 and 4 times. And so we're looking at a stretch of 8 days at least. And, so I can't stress enough the importance of, staying cool and staying hydrated during this heat event. And, we're taking it very seriously here, which is why the Emergency Operations Center is activated to respond to any issues that arise because of the heat. The National Weather Service has an heat watch that's in effect all the way through next Tuesday, potentially could be expanded into Wednesday. And so there's very good communication out from the Weather Service on just how extreme this heat event's going to be. The one kind of silver lining and sliver of good news is that there is a little bit of marine layer starting to come up from the south. And so we're watching that very carefully. And that could be bringing some relief to locations that are close to the coast. Once the sea breeze and marine layer returns, that remains to be seen if that will happen and just what the strength of that will be. But one thing's certain is that any locations in the interior, like where we are in Vacaville, are going to see little to no relief from that marine layer. And then, one thing I'll say about the fire danger is that, as we know, these hot temperatures are not good for the fuels that are out there. They continue to trend drier, and in many levels, they're reaching record dry levels for this time of year, and we're just getting started with this heat event. So we do expect the fire danger and fire potential to keep rising. And we are monitoring anytime there's a fire weather watch or fire alert from any external agency. We're looking at the details of what the wind speeds are, what relative humidities are, in case we need to take that last resort action of public safety power shutoff. And so with that, I'll turn it over to the Customer Strategy Officer, Tom Smith.
All right, thank you, Scott. So first off, I really would like to thank our customers for their understanding and patience while we work to keep the power on and restore quickly when it does go out. There's always a reminder that we'd like to send to every customer about being ready for any potential outage, regardless of the level, et cetera. So to protect customers' health and safety during this extreme event, we are pausing residential customer disconnections for non-payment. This began on June 28th. And so we really want to make sure that customers stay safe in this extreme weather. We also have customer support services for these types of events. PG&E partners with the California Foundation for Independent Living through the Disability Disaster Access and Resources Program. And this provides support for older adults and people with disabilities. This support is available before, during, and after PSPS outages and other wildfire safety power outages and heat storm emergencies like we're in today. PG&E also partners with the California 211 Providers Network to support customers. 211 is a free and confidential service that helps people find local resources like lodging, ADA accessible transportation, utility assistance, and more. 211 assists with emergency preparedness by minimizing hardships on our most vulnerable customers for any kind of wildfire safety outage or heat-related outage, such as a PSPS. And to assist customers with medical and independent living needs before, during, and after any outage, we're currently partnering with 43 community-based organizations. And so we would encourage all customers to visit pge.com/PSPS updates to learn more about those support options, community resource centers, and much more. And now I'd like to talk a little bit more about those community-based organization offerings. So we're also expanding that support of the DDAR program to all of our areas that are experiencing this heat event. We're expanding the availability of materials in American Sign Language, as well as providing customers with the option to call 1-800-743-5000 to receive communications in Braille, large print, and also audio only. We also are providing our emergency information in 16 different languages other than English. And we are collaborating with organizations to provide ADA accessible transportation to and from our community resource centers. We also have 9 food banks that have been activated to help customers with food loss during extended power outage situations. We also have programs for both residential and business customers to help stabilize the grid. These are called demand response programs, and they provide a financial incentive for customers to shift or reduce their usage during critical times and high grid use when the demand is the highest. So to learn more about those programs, you can visit our website at pge.com/demand response. Now I'm going to turn it back over to Lindsay.
Thanks, Tom and Mark and Scott. We did invite a couple of local media outlets to join us here at the EOC for our news conference. knowing a lot of media outlets are actually out covering the fires right now, we do have a local media outlet here, and I'd like to turn it over to KCRA if they've got any questions for our folks.
Yeah, you had mentioned pre-positioning crews for potential areas where there could be outages. Where exactly is that?
Well, thanks for the question. We have a pretty large service territory with 19 different divisions. So we look at the meteorology predictions that we receive from Scott and the team that kind of predict based on historical performance of our system, anticipated heat and anticipated outage activity, where that could be. So, and then it highlights for us like areas of concern to send our resources. So the Central Valley and some of the inland areas that are, for lack of a better term, kind of used to these heat levels, perhaps not so many in a row, they're fully complemented. We've done a lot of movement in the Bay, not so much in San Francisco, but Inland Bay, East Bay, San Jose, Concord, Walnut Creek, going all the way up in that coastal valley. When we see temperatures that are north of 100 degrees in those areas for several consecutive days, we've had some outage activity in the past. So what we've done is position resources to be able to respond.
And then additionally, I know you had mentioned, kind of being proactive and checking power lines and making sure there are no trees in the way, because we know those can potentially start fires. I know technically that, today we're having this press conference, but it's been pretty hot the past couple of days. For the fires that have recently started, is there any connection to any PG&E equipment that you're aware of at this point?
No, not at this time. There's several active incidents across the state. Yesterday, it was, the large fire, Thompson Fire, up in the Oroville area in Butte County. We had some transmission lines that were impacted as a result of that event from the smoke. It caused the lines to operate automatically. But CAL FIRE was asking us to de-energize sections of our system for firefighter safety so that they could get in there with initial attack operations. And then the other large fire that we're monitoring is called the Basin Fire, which is near French Gulch, Southern Sierra Nevada foothills. Those are the two biggest fires that we have right now. No indication of any PG&E involvement. We're just partnering with the agencies who are running these incidents and giving them everything that they need to be successful.
Is the monitoring of the lines in terms of being close to trees and such, is that still ongoing now, getting into the rest of the week?
Absolutely. Yeah. When we have a proactive systematic system inspection program where we're out patrolling lines on a frequent basis. But when we get into extreme events like extreme heat events, or we're forecasting potential PSPS condition with wind and dry fuels, that's where we will go out and proactively patrol the system just to make sure that we're good. So for instance, if our regular program just patrolled an asset or a transmission line last week, and now we have wildfire risk or big heat risk this week, we're going to re-patrol just out of an abundance of caution.
And then lastly from us, you mentioned, the power grid seems to be stable at the moment, but usage is pretty high, kind of bumping up to, max usage that PG&E has seen. Is there the thought that the power grid could potentially get overwhelmed, and what would that look like in terms of?
We're not anticipating that right now. We're very closely aligned with the California Independent System Operator, who they have jurisdiction of the whole state of California, all the transmission system and generating resources. And they have issued a transmission emergency alert for that fire, the Thompson Fire. And they've also issued what we refer to as a restricted maintenance operation order, which pretty much is a request for all utilities, all generating companies to not take any critical equipment out of service, because it's an all hands on deck scenario from an equipment perspective. So all resources are available. Right now, they have not indicated they have plenty of reserve capacity. We don't anticipate anything, but our control center, our transmission control center team is tied in directly with the ISO every day, and we see these things coming and we can posture the system accordingly.
Mark, can you clarify what the transmission emergency means when the ISO calls a transmission emergency?
Transmission emergency by the California ISO, it's an alert that allows generating resources to operate to address the emergency condition.
So they're kind of flagging that area.
They're
right?
flagging it because we lost a few transmission lines in the area from the wildfire smoke. So when you take those lines out of service or they come out of service automatically, everything else is under stress, if you will. It's planned for because the ISO plans for a loss, the next contingency. But now you're at that point in order to prepare for the following contingency if it were to cascade. That's what that alert's all about. And it's really just taking the appropriate actions on the transmission system to prevent a large cascading outage event on our system or on the interconnection.
Any other questions? Okay. All right, Mark,
All right,
thank you.
thank you.
Scott, thanks. Tom, thank you all for watching. We appreciate it. You can continue to follow us on social media channels and also on pg.com for the most up-to-date information about the impacts of the heat event and how we're preparing to respond. Again, we thank our customers and we urge you to stay safe out there.